The United States and Russia are working toward an agreement to end the war in Ukraine, one that would formalize Russia's control over territory it seized during the invasion, Bloomberg reported on August 8, citing unnamed sources familiar with the discussion. U.S. and Russian officials are negotiating a deal on territorial matters ahead of a potential summit between Presidents Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, which could happen as soon as next week. The U.S. is also seeking approval from Ukraine and its European allies, though the deal remains uncertain. Putin's main condition is that Ukraine surrenders control of its entire eastern Donbas region comprised of Luhansk and Donetsk, as well as Crimea Peninsula, which was illegally annexed by Russia in 2014. This would require Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy to order the withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from parts of eastern Luhansk and Donetsk regions still under Kiev's control, effectively giving Russia a victory that its military has not been able to secure since the full-fledged invasion, which has now entered its fourth year. In return, Russia would halt its offensive in the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions along the current front line. As Bloomberg noted, the deal would effectively freeze the war and pave the way for technical peace talks. Bloomberg described such an agreement as a significant win for Vladimir Putin, who has long sought direct talks with the U.S. to negotiate the war's end, bypassing Ukraine and its European supporters. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy could face a situation where he's forced to accept the loss of Ukrainian territory, while Europe fears being left to enforce a ceasefire while Putin strengthens his military forces. The White House, the Kremlin, and Kiev have not responded to Bloomberg's request to comment on the agreement. The agreement is primarily intended to halt the conflict and set the stage for a ceasefire and technical discussions on a final peace deal, Bloomberg quoted sources. Previously, the U.S. had been urging Russia to accept an unconditional ceasefire first, to allow room for negotiations aimed at ending the bloodshed. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is playing a crucial role helping to bring an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. On Wednesday, speaking on Fox Business's Kudlow, Rubio said that for the first time since the Trump administration took office, we have some concrete examples of the kinds of things that Russia would ask for in order to end the war. The comments come following a meeting between Kirill Dmitriev, the head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff earlier Wednesday. Dmitriev said a Trump-Putin meeting would allow Moscow to clearly convey its position, and he hoped a summit would include discussions on mutually beneficial economic issues, including joint investments in areas such as rare earth elements. Today was a good day, but we got a lot of work ahead. There's still many impediments to overcome, and we hope to do that over the next few days and hours, Rubio said. The announcement comes on the eve of a White House deadline for Moscow to show progress toward ending the three-year-old war in Ukraine. A meeting would be a significant milestone in Trump's effort to end the war, although there's no guarantee that such a summit would stop the fighting since Moscow and Kiev remain far apart on their conditions for peace. Putin's foreign affairs advisor Yuri Ushakov said a summit could possibly take place next week. The meeting would be the first U.S.-Russia summit since 2021, when former President Joe Biden met Putin in Geneva. It would be a significant milestone toward Trump's effort to end the war, although there's no guarantee it would stop the fighting since Moscow and Kiev remain far apart on their conditions for peace.
No, I've always believed, I've always said this, that I think for the deal, if there's going to be a deal to end this war, it'll have to require the president to come in at the end and close on it, as I've seen him do numerous times now on trade deals as an example. So we got to get close enough to that point so that a meeting like that will be productive and worth doing. Today was a good day, but we got a lot of work ahead. There's still many impediments to overcome, and we hope to do that over the next few days and hours. What I can say is everybody wants the war to end. I think the conditions under which it's supposed to end that's always the hard part in this. But today was a good day, but there's a lot of work I don't want to exaggerate. We still have a ways to go here, but we certainly are closer today than we were yesterday, where we weren't close at all. But I think for the first time, perhaps since this administration began, we have some concrete examples of the kinds of things that Russia would ask for in order to end the war. We haven't had much of that to this point. Obviously, the Ukrainians have a say in this. We got to bring the two sides and the two positions close enough so that the ultimate closer, President Trump, can get involved and make it happen. This is important in the sense that we think what happened was good because we have a sense now of what conditions the Russians would require in order to end the war. Now, they may not be the conditions Ukraine can accept or, frankly, that others would accept, but at least we have something to work off of. So I think a lot of that is going to depend now on how close can we bring the two sides to each other? Can we make enough progress? Can we get 85% of the way there, 75% of the way there? Because I don't think you can have a leaders level meeting if you're not close enough, because then nothing's going to come of that meeting. We want to get it close enough, and then we want to give the president the opportunity to come in and close it. So I can't prejudge how long that could take. It could take hours. It could take days. Frankly, it could take weeks. We don't know. But we're going to try here. We're working on.
The Kremlin elites are increasingly leaning towards the need to end the war against Ukraine. The founder of the investigative publication, The Insider, Roman Dobrokotov, stated this in an interview with Ukrainian journalist Alessia Batsman. According to him, even the closest circle of dictator Vladimir Putin, from influential oligarchs to the security forces from the so-called O0 cooperative, are increasingly calling for negotiations and an end to the conflict. The reason is simple. Russia is exhausted. Its financial and military resources are running out, and hopes for victory are fading. Within Russia, there are different forces with different positions, including from Vladimir Putin's inner circle. Putin himself is determined to continue pushing, Dobrokotov said. He noted that the head of the Kremlin continues to cling to the illusion of a breakthrough that is supposedly about to happen. His military entourage keeps promising him it didn't work out last time, but now we're almost. According to the journalist, Putin cannot admit that he made a mistake and is trying to convince himself of the possibility of at least a partial victory. At the same time, in the first days of the invasion, it became clear the blitzkrieg had failed and Ukraine was ready to resist as long as necessary. He united around himself the security forces who believed in victory, pushed through the elite, broke society, but everyone in jail, and everything failed. Dobrokotov added, "Now," he said, "pressure is increasing from those who recognize the catastrophic consequences of the war for Russia. There are a large number of people around him, including those from his closest circle, who say, we need to reach an agreement right now, while it's still possible, because the money is running out," he emphasized. For now, Putin, according to Dobrokotov, is not ready to make reasonable agreements, continuing to drag out the conflict despite the destructive consequences for Russia. According to Dobrokotov, the Russian dictator has never been in such a dangerous situation as he is now. "If I were Putin, I would be afraid of an assassination attempt." In addition to Ukrainian intelligence, an assassination attempt could be made by our own people, the journalist stated. Recall, income from oil sales to the Russian budget in July fell by 30% compared to the same period last year. This was reported by the Bloomberg agency, citing data from the Russian Ministry of Finance. The main reasons are the fall in global oil prices and the strengthening of the ruble, which deprives the Kremlin of critical foreign exchange revenue. According to the agency's calculations, oil taxes have fallen by almost 33%, amounting to 710.4 billion rubles, or about $8.9 billion. Total gas and oil revenues have fallen by 27%, amounting to 787.3 billion rubles. It's a worrying blow to Russia's finances, with raw material revenues accounting for about a third of the federal budget. Moscow faces growing pressure to meet massive military spending.